Lucky's struggle with the truth. Lucky Spencer had always prided himself on his strength, both physically and emotionally. As a son of the notorious Luke Spencer, his life had been anything but ordinary. But it wasn't the reckless escapades or even the wild adventures that haunted Lucky, it was the truths he had buried deep within himself. Those truths, once forgotten, were now emerging, pushing him to confront the reality of his past and the mistakes he had made. The facade of the strong, reliable son was beginning to crack, and the weight of his decisions was growing heavier with every passing day. It all began when he found himself at the crossroads of his own life, forced to reckon with the choices he had made in the wake of his failed marriage to Elizabeth. His children, the few sources of joy in his tumultuous life, were now paying the price for his inability to come to terms with his past. The realization that his own demons were sabotaging his chance at happiness broke him in ways nothing else could. He had spent years chasing after something elusive, hoping that the next step would bring him peace, but it never did. Now, facing his demons head-on, Lucky knew there was no running away anymore. The truth would be his salvation, but only if he could find the strength to accept it. Anna's suspicion turns into a dangerous truth. Anna Devane had always been the picture of grace and elegance, a woman whose reputation for integrity and loyalty was well established. But behind that poised exterior was a mind that could not be easily fooled. Over the past few weeks, something had felt off. A series of peculiar events, cryptic conversations, and secretive glances had piqued her intuition, and it was a feeling she couldn't shake. As she sat down with Jason Morgan, her longtime ally and trusted confidant, she laid out her suspicions. Jason listened intently, his expression unreadable, as Anna recounted the oddities that had begun to surface. From covert meetings to unexplained disappearances, it seemed as if someone close to them was playing a dangerous game. Jason, ever the stoic protector, didn't offer many answers, but he promised to look into it. However, Anna knew that the truth, whatever it may be, was closer than they realized. Anna's fears were justified when pieces of a much larger puzzle began to fall into place. As the investigation deepened, her instincts told her that there was a powerful force at play, one that could very well bring chaos to Port Charles. But what troubled her more was the nagging feeling that this enemy might be closer to home than anyone could have imagined. The danger was no longer a distant possibility, it was now a looming threat that could unravel everything. Curtis and Portia's family reunion. For Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson, family had always been a central part of their lives, even when the bonds between them were strained. After years of secrets and misunderstandings, the time had finally come for them to confront the ghosts of their pasts. The reunion, however, wasn't one of joyous embraces. It was a meeting filled with anticipation, uncertainty, and the hope that healing could take place after years of separation. Portia, still reeling from the consequences of past mistakes, was determined to make amends with Curtis. She knew that their family deserved more than the broken promises and hurt that had defined their relationship for far too long. But Curtis, despite his own desires to forgive, couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. His loyalty had been tested in ways he never imagined, and while the heart might be willing, the mind had its doubts. Their family reunion was not just a moment for healing, but for reckoning. There were difficult conversations that needed to take place, emotions that had to be aired, and apologies that could not be delayed any longer. The tension in the air was palpable, as old wounds were reopened, and the possibility of rebuilding their family remained uncertain. Would they be able to overcome the weight of the past and start fresh, or would the ghosts of yesterday forever haunt their efforts to move forward? Sasha's overwhelming struggle. Sasha Gilmore had always been a fighter, someone who had endured more than her fair share of hardships and challenges. But recently, life seemed to be throwing more at her than she could handle. The weight of her struggles with addiction, the loss of her son, and the isolation she felt in the wake of her tumultuous relationships had taken their toll. Sasha found herself questioning whether she had the strength to go on, to face another day. Despite her outward composure, Sasha was overwhelmed. She spent many sleepless nights grappling with the emotional turmoil that she couldn't escape. Her past, filled with choices that she wished she could undo, continued to haunt her, and the fear of slipping back into old habits was a constant battle. But as much as she tried to push those feelings down, they resurfaced, threatening to consume her. There were moments when she felt utterly alone, when the weight of her mistakes seemed unbearable. But Sasha was no stranger to resilience. Though the darkness often felt suffocating, she held on, clinging to the small glimmers of hope that remained. In the face of overwhelming odds, she made the decision to seek help, to confront the demons that had taken over her life. It wasn't an easy path, but Sasha knew that the only way out of the darkness was through it. And so, she took the first steps toward healing, determined to reclaim her life, no matter how daunting the journey ahead seemed. Willow takes matters into her own hands. Willow Tate had always been a woman of quiet strength, someone who preferred to stay in the background and allow others to take center stage. But as the situation in Port Charles became more dire, Willow realized that there was no room for hesitation. The stakes were too high, and the danger too close for comfort. If she was going to protect those she loved, she would have to act, and act quickly. Willow's decision to step forward wasn't born out of recklessness, but out of necessity. She had spent too many months feeling powerless, watching as the chaos around her continued to escalate. But now, as her loved ones found themselves in increasingly perilous situations, she knew she couldn't afford to sit back any longer. Whether it was standing up to a powerful adversary or confronting a personal crisis, Willow took matters into her own hands, determined to ensure that no one would suffer on her watch. Her determination was unwavering as she dove headfirst into action. Every step she took was fueled by a desire to protect, to keep those she cared for safe in the face of mounting threats. Willow's journey wasn't easy, and there were sacrifices along the way. But as she faced the chaos with strength and courage, she proved that even the quietest among them could rise to meet the moment when the stakes were the highest. And in doing so, she cemented her place as a fierce protector in a town that was anything but safe.